I've kept count for other people my whole life. That's the part nobody warns you about. You don't choose it. Somebody just looks at you one day and decides you're the careful one, the one who reads the map twice, the one who knows where everyone is. And once people decide that about you, they stop counting themselves. They let you do it. So I want to tell you about something I counted. For years. Carefully. The way I count everything. And the number was always wrong. Let me start with a normal night. Because that's how it always started. Normal. 6 of us. A backcountry trip, 3 days in, no trail nearby, no other groups for miles. The kind of quiet where you can hear the fire settle. 6 people, 6 tents. I pitched mine. I watched the others pitch theirs. I'm telling you this because it matters later. I watched. Before we turned in, somebody asked the question groups always ask. Everybody good? That's all of us? And I looked around the fire, counted, 6. That's everyone, I said. We went to sleep. In the morning, there were 7 tents. Now, I know how that sounds. The first thing you think is, I miscounted. People always think that. I thought that. So I counted again. Slowly. People first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everybody who went to sleep was awake and accounted for. Nobody knew. Nobody wandered in overnight. We were alone out there. Then I counted tents. 7. There was one more tent than there were people. And it wasn't near mine. It wasn't in the middle of camp where you'd notice it. It was out at the edge, just past the last of our tents, sitting there in the early light like it had every right to be. Faded green canvas, old rainfly, and down near one corner, a little square patch, hand-stitched. Somebody had repaired that tent once, carefully, a long time ago. I want you to remember the patch. Everybody who sees this thing remembers the patch. We did what anyone would do. We stood around it. We made jokes that weren't really jokes. Somebody said another group must have come through. But there was no other group. No tracks. No fire but ours. And then somebody unzipped it. I'll tell you exactly what was inside, because the inside is the part that has never once left me. A sleeping bag, laid out, and pressed down in the middle, the way a bag looks after someone's been lying in it. Not folded, not packed, used. A lantern beside it, set down on the flat, the way you set a lantern when you mean to pick it up again. A metal cup, and on the inside of the canvas, up near the top, a little fog of condensation. The kind your breath leaves overnight when you sleep in a closed tent. Nobody said it out loud, but we all felt the same thing standing there. It didn't feel empty. It felt like somebody had just stepped out. Like if we turned around, they'd be coming back from the tree line, and they'd be a little surprised to find us all crowded around their tent. We zipped it back up. I don't know why. It felt rude not to. That was the first time. I told myself it was a one-time thing, some explanation I just couldn't see yet. It was not a one-time thing. It happened again. Different trip, different forest, different people, most of them. We counted at night, 5 of us that time. And somebody said the words, "Okay, that's all of us." And in the morning, there were 6 tents. Same green canvas, same worn rainfly, same patch down near the corner. The same tent. I need you to understand what that did to me, because by then I was already a man who didn't trust a count. I'd been that man for a long time, for reasons I'll get to, and here was a thing in the world telling me, every single time, that my count was short. I started writing it down. I'm not a dramatic person. I want you to know that. I'm the opposite of dramatic. So when I tell you I started keeping records, I mean I got organized. I took photographs. The tent showed up in every one, clear as anything. The patch, the canvas, the position at the edge of camp. I measured. The distance from the last real tent to the extra one was never random. It was always one spacing further out. The exact place a sixth tent would go. The exact place a seventh tent would go. As if the camp had been laid out for one more person than showed up. And the spot was just sitting there, open, until the tent came to fill it. And I noticed something about the patch. It always faced inward. Toward the fire. Toward us. The way you'd orient your door if you were part of the group. If you wanted to be near the others. A stranger's tent faces out, toward the way they came in, toward the way they'll leave. This one faced in, every time. Like whoever it belonged to wanted to be close to everybody. I have a folder of photographs, years of them, different states, and the patch is always turned toward the people. Here's where it stopped being a story I could keep to myself. I started asking around, quietly, guides I knew, a couple of rangers, search and rescue volunteers, people who spend their lives in the backcountry and have seen everything. And I describe it, very plain. Old green tent, repaired with a square patch near the corner, shows up at the edge of camp. I expected blank looks. I did not get blank looks. A retired guide put down his coffee and said, "Patch near the bottom corner?" And I said yes. And he just nodded, slow, and didn't say anything for a while. A ranger told me she'd seen it twice, 2 different seasons. Both times she'd written it up as unattended equipment because there was no other box on the form to put it in. None of them agreed on the details that should have lined up. They gave me different years, different forests. One swore it was up north, another just as sure it was down south. The dates were all over the place. But nobody, not one person, disagreed about the tent. The oldest of them, a man who'd been guiding longer than I'd been alive, told me the thing I still think about most. He said, "The strange part isn't that it shows up." He took his time with it. "The strange part is how fast everybody starts treating it like it belongs." And he was right. That's exactly what we'd done that first morning. We'd zipped it back up, out of politeness, for somebody who wasn't there. So I tried to break it. This is the part where I have to admit I became a little obsessed. When something won't make sense, and you're the kind of person who needs things to make sense, you start running experiments. The first thing I figured out was the rule, the one I still can't explain to anybody without sounding strange. The tent only comes after the count is finished. It only comes after somebody says it out loud. That's everyone. That's all of us. Nobody's missing. That little ceremony at the end of the night where the group agrees it's complete. So I stopped finishing the count. I'd deliberately leave it open. I'd say, "Let's not bother. We'll figure it out in the morning." I'd keep a question mark on it. Maybe somebody's still down by the water. Maybe somebody's coming. And on the nights I left the count unfinished, nothing. No extra tent. Just our tents, the right number, in the morning. But the nights somebody said the words, the nights we all agreed, everyone's here, were complete. Morning. 7 tenths. 6. Whatever it was, plus one. It was as if the thing was waiting for us to be certain, as if it only spoke up once we'd closed the door, as if it heard us say, "That's everyone," and quietly disagreed. I know how that sounds. So I did the obvious thing. I put cameras out. Trail cameras. The kind hunters use. Then proper video. Then a time lapse running all night on the empty edge of camp, the exact spot where it always appeared. I wanted the moment. That's all I wanted. One frame of somebody carrying that tent in. One frame of hands staking it down. One frame of the empty ground becoming a tent. I have hours of footage. The edge of camp is empty, all night, dark and empty. The grass doesn't move except in the wind. And then it's morning, and the tent is there. There is no frame in between. It's not that the camera missed it. The camera was running. The timestamps are continuous. There's no gap in the recording, no glitch, no dropout. The ground is empty. The next part, the tent is standing, empty. Then there. Nothing in between. I've watched that footage more times than I'll admit to you, frame by frame, looking for the seam. There isn't one. The camera proves the tent is real, and in the same breath, it proves nobody put it there. By now I had boxes, photographs, notes, the witness conversations written up, maps with little marks all over them. I started looking at the maps as a whole, every place it had ever shown up. Mine and the ones other people had described well enough to pin down. And there was no neat pattern in the geography. It wasn't following a path. It wasn't circling a spot. But there was a pattern in the camp itself, every single time. The tent never crowded in. It never pushed between two tents. It never landed somewhere it didn't fit. It always took the one open place, the spot at the edge that was already there, the place that exists in every camp without anybody planning it, the place where one more person could go. And that's when the question I'd been asking quietly turned into a different question, a worse one. I'd been asking, all this time, whose tent is this? But the camp always had room for it before it ever arrived. The space was already there. The tent didn't make a place. It filled one that was waiting. So the real question wasn't, whose tent is this? The real question was, why does every finished camp already have a place left open for one more? I need to tell you about the trip from a long time ago. I've been putting it off. The way I've been putting it off for most of my life. I was younger. I was the one keeping count, even then. Bigger group that time. And for a few hours, one afternoon, somebody was missing and none of us knew it. We thought we had everyone. I thought we had everyone. I'd done the count, and I'd said the words, and we'd moved on. And the whole time, one person wasn't with us. Off where they shouldn't have been. Fine, as it turned out. We found them before dark. Nobody hurt, nobody worse for it. But I'd said everyone was there, and everyone was not there. That's the day I stopped trusting a count. People think I'm just thorough, careful. That's just how he is. That's the version I let them have. The truth is, I check and recheck because some part of me has never once believed, since that afternoon, that a finished count is actually finished. That somebody isn't out there at the edge of it that I missed. I'd never connected that trip to the tent. They were two separate things I carried. One was an old mistake. The other was a strange thing in the woods. Then I called the person, the one who'd gone missing all those years ago. They're alive, doing fine, ordinary life. We hadn't spoken in a long time, and I told myself I was calling for the research, just another witness. We talked about the old trip, the search. They remembered it. We laughed a little, the way you do about things that turned out okay. And then, without me bringing it up, without me saying one word about any of this, they said something I wasn't ready for. They said, "You know what's funny? I always remember there being this extra tent that night, out at the edge, green one. Never knew whose it was." I didn't say anything. I had never told them about any of it. Not the patch, not the green canvas, not the years of photographs, nothing. There was no way for that to be in their head, but they remembered it. The one time my count was actually, truly wrong. The one afternoon someone really was missing. The tent may have been there too. After that call, I went back to the oldest photographs I own. From that original trip, decades ago. I'd avoided those photos for years. You can probably guess why. Most of them are just what you'd expect. People, fire, gear. And then there's one. Taken near dusk. Everyone gathered around the fire. Tents behind them in the dim light, a little out of focus. And out at the far edge of the frame, small, almost lost in the dark, a green tent. Patch turned inward. I had the negative checked. It's real. It's not a smudge, not a trick of the developing. The timestamp's right. The tent is in the photograph. Nobody remembers pitching it. Nobody remembers sleeping in it. Nobody remembers it being there at all. The photograph remembers it. We don't. And that's the thought that changed everything for me. The tent didn't start when I noticed it. It was already there, years before I ever began counting it. Standing at the edge of a night I thought I knew everything about. Which means I don't know how long it's been there. I don't know how many counts I called complete with that tent sitting just outside the light. The patch turned in toward me while I said the words. That's everyone. How many times was it there, and I just didn't look? I'll be honest with you about where this leaves a person. I never found out whose tent it is. I want to say that plainly, so you're not waiting for it. There's no answer at the end of this. I chased it for years, and every road runs into the same wall. The tent is real. Everyone sees it. Everyone counts it. And nobody, anywhere, owns it. I know what it does. It comes after the count is closed. It takes the open place at the edge. It's empty, but it never feels empty. It feels like somebody just stepped out, and any minute now, they'll come back and find you standing too close to their things. I know what it does. I never learned what it is. And after a while, I stopped being able to keep it out in the woods, away from the rest of my life. Because once you've seen it, you start seeing the shape of it everywhere. The chair nobody sat in. The empty seat in the back of the car. The photograph where the group used to be bigger. The table that's set, somehow, with a little too much room on one end. Every gathering I'm part of, I catch it now. The place at the edge. The one that's open. The one that's waiting. I never say anything. People would think I'd lost it. But I see it. I'll leave you with one more thing. It happened a while ago now. No forest, no cameras, no maps. I'd put all that away. It was just an evening. People I care about, in a warm room, talking over each other, laughing. Ordinary as anything. And somebody, getting ready to head out, asked the question. The one I've heard my whole life. Are we all here? That everybody? And I counted, the way I always count. Careful, quiet, once for the people. Then, the way I do now, once for the empty places. The number was right. Everyone who was supposed to be there was there. The count was correct. The count was complete. And still, I felt it. The little pause. The one the people who travel with me have learned not to ask about. A second longer than it needs to be. Then I let it go and moved on. Because here's what that thing in the woods left me with. It isn't fear. I'm not afraid. It's that I can't say the words anymore. That's everyone. I just can't make myself finish the sentence. It used to feel final. Now it feels like I'm closing a door on somebody who hasn't come in yet. So I counted, that night, and the count was complete. And my eyes went, just for a second, to the empty place at the end of the room. The open spot. The one that's always there if you look for it. Nobody was in it. I didn't expect anyone to be. I looked anyway. I always look now. Because some places are never really full, no matter how carefully you count. There's always room for one more, right at the edge, just past the light. And I still don't know. I have never once known. If that place is waiting for somebody, or remembering